Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Raid and Trade August Treasure Cup that happened online this past weekend. And real quick before we get started, a couple of things. One, if you want these deck lists, they are going to be on my website. Also, I know I'm going to get this comment a lot, and I'm going to just answer it here. Gen Con lists are coming, I promise you. As soon as I get them, I'm putting them up here. I'm doing coverage and everything for them. They have just not been released yet, and I'm sorry that hasn't been the case yet. So as soon as they are, I'll get them. But in the meantime, we will talk about this event right here. So hosted by Raid and Trade. It was also live stream on their Twitch too. So if you want to see the coverage, there was 1,000 players, so 10 rounds of Swiss. New restriction list. The new star decks are not legal yet, and that's what we got here today. And also, there's a whole bunch of Newgate, and I'm probably gonna make maybe more generalized opinions on how I feel about Newgate post second restriction list for Newgate. But right now we'll just wait and see what Gen Con is showing for us. I know for two of the events, and it's looking a little Newgate heavy, but we'll see for the rest of them. But obviously very strong, and we'll just kind of go over the topping list. We do say that we also had Katakuri in the top 16, which is nice. Zoro and Law, not too surprising, and also Nami, which is kind of neat for that one. So we're going to jump in with the top placing list for each one of these leaders, starting with our first place Newgate. And this is honestly, like, I inputted 9 of these Newgate lists, and all of them pretty much look like this. And this is just generally what Newgate looks like. It's the Strawbeard, right? Rush deck version, are just more aggressive. So we have Namis and Izos for turn 1 or 2 to get some defensive. We have some Fosses as well for some blockers, as well as choppers. A lot of them weren't even running the 4-drop Marco, which this one wasn't either, which kind of makes sense that either it's kind of like an all or nothing a bit of cards. So like you don't really care if you don't see it, especially when you just have these tinier blockers to help you survive there. We have Otamas and Makinos to help bump us up. A bunch of 2K counters. Most of them are Star Hats, but we do also have our Josus as well for the Newgate stuff. And then just kind of the top. And 1 9-drop, because this can win you the games. And then 6 event cards. So 4 guard points, 1 Rad Beam, and a Red Hawk as well. So this is kind of what I normally see. Some people go a little bit more crazy with their event cards, but this is generically what we see here. And like you can look through the rest of the other 8 of them, but this is pretty much what Newgate looks like. It's very, very strong still. Being a 6K leader is great, and being able to just get all these values. I mean, like, being able to play either Luffy or Atmos on curve, and then like following up with Thatch sometimes is just too good to kind of pass up. Then we have Marco and Luffy, both great 5-drops that are 6Ks, which are great, strong, and just kind of go from there. So this is a list. Congratulations to our Newgate players, and we'll see if this continues. I honestly don't know what deck this does, has a hard time around. Like, it's very, very strong there. So there we are. Next up we have Katakuri, and we do obviously a lot of Katakuris. So far, at least the 2 in-person events at Gen Con that are held like the same week, no yellow topped, which is quite remarkable for me. I do think that Katakuri does have a rough matchup against Newgate, though. Even though you can make like yourself 7K swings, you do kind of have a bit of a rough time. But I also say this is a pretty greedy build. But one, having 4 copies of the Opera, I think are correct. They could be Baron Tamagos, but Opera is okay, I suppose. But being a 6K means that a lot of, like, a 4-drop 6K is actually very strong in this meta, especially like it's really good at trading into to Newgate as well. Katakuri kind of does the same thing. And then only one of the 7-drop, which this card, unless you play it specifically on curve, is really rough against Newgate. So being able to play it not on curve is fine. But then we also have the 4 of the Charlotte Katakuri Secret Rare. Obviously you can't run more than 4. And I kind of like started the meta thinking this is like a 2 of, but I don't mind this card at 4, specifically because it can do some good stuff with either healing yourself, being on curve, just having like a constant 8K swing. And sometimes like there's some weird situations where like on Newgate, I can play it. I can put their card back in their life, and if they're at 0 life already, they're going to put it back in their hand anyway. So it doesn't really like do anything negative for me against Newgate. So that's kind of nice. And obviously you can heal like a Shirahoshi, and that's great too. So, and then 4 of the 10-drop there too. And then 3 Thunderbolts, no of the defensive events, but this seems pretty solid. I think it's good for what the meta we're seeing. and you still have I think a hard time against Trafalgar Law at times, but this also can help you bounce like 5-drop laws back into their life, which is great. And I think can help you in a lot of ways. So this is a list. Congratulations there. And then next up we have Zoro. We only had 2 Zoros in the top 16, which is a little wild to me. A lot of them are kind of like these toolbox, like more versions, not like straight aggro, even though we do have like Magra and other aggro tools with it. We also do have like a bunch of events, which is kind of why we're playing Buggy. But 1 Rad Beam, 4 guard points, a Jambe, which I do like a 1 of Jambe in these lists, especially if we're not playing the 5-drop Luffy at all. You also have 1 copy of Fiery Doll, which this one does do work. Sometimes it does just give you lethal out of nowhere. I wish it was 4K to anything, but 4K leader sometimes is good, especially if you like Fiery Doll Jambe, then you're in a good spot. Fire Fist, obviously, and 1 copy of Jet Pistol. So honestly, I think a little bit lean on events, right? Because we are only running 11. Yeah, we're only running 11, which is pretty hard for your Buggy to consistently see it. But just being able to say, I'm a 3K 1-drop is still good enough, I think. And then kind of like more of the usual suspects. Vista instead of Nico Robin. We have the Zoros, the Marcos, and just everything else. So here's the Zoro list. Congrats there. And then we have Law, which every time I see Law in a top 16, like what more do I have to say about this deck? Not a lot. There's not a lot that's really left for me to say. I think Vista is a choice. I think Vista does hit a lot of things, but it does do kind of poor in the Newgate matchup. There's not, I guess it does pop the blockers that they're playing at low, so I think that does make sense for that. I'd say like traditional Newgate doesn't, but it does there. Zoro's, no Brooks, just the film Zoro and the 4-drop Zoro, or sorry, the 3-drop Rush Zoro, and then your Laws and your 1 of Rad Beam. So I don't know, pretty standard list. Nothing much to say, and congrats there. And then lastly, we have Nami, which did sneak into the top 16 here. And this is like the event heaviest deck I've ever seen. Like we're only playing, 17 battle cards? Is that right? 17 characters? I don't know if the stats are there. I think it's only 17, right? 4, 4, 2, 17. 17 of these. And that's very little. I mean, you're only running 6 2Ks as well, which is pretty crazy. So obviously this is a deck that kind of folds around your opponent not having like just doing a bunch of 6K or 5K swings. Like you have a lot of hard time dealing with this. I also want to mention that this deck specifically is running the highest rarity I think is a rare, right? Because F's a rare. Yeah, there's no super rares or secret rares in this build too, which is kind of whack. But I do like the idea of Nojiko though. This does stop a lot of decks, and specifically against stuff like Newgate. If they play a 4-drop Atmos, you just boop, play Nojiko, and they play a Marco to get rid of the other one, like boop, all right, get rid of it again. So this can buy you a lot of time, and some I think against Newgate, which I think is great. And also, Newgate is better generically at making bigger swings than wider swings. So being able to kind of interact with that, I think, is in a good spot for you there. So otherwise, just a bunch of events. We have a lot of cards that can trigger off of our life. We have draw 2, discard 1. We have draw 2. We have draw 2. We have draw 1, trash 1. We have bottom deck of 3. We have return of 7. We have return of 4, and also return a 4. Yeah, so like there's a lot of cards that can trigger off your life since I think over half the cards now, right? So there's 16, 20, definitely over half your cards in your life. So like you can expect like 2 or 3 good triggers in your life every time, which I think is solid for you to get that consistency. The only thing you're missing out is like board presence, which can be kind of rough. So otherwise, deck is interesting. Also, like no Daz Bones, which I think is wild too. I think that's just always in my mind. Like, oh, of course you put Daz Bones in because it gets back your rubber bands or your gavels, but just simply not in this build either. So interesting there, but definitely did very, very well. So it did the job, which is great, and nothing more to say. So there we go there, and that is the end of this top 16 breakdown. Again, I will get Gen Con lists as soon as I can, but I do appreciate Ray and Trade publishing these lists so we can go over them and everything else. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.